to start today with a very specific feeling. It's not exactly being sick. You aren't running a fever, your leg isn't broken, and you're technically functioning.
Right, you're getting through the day.
Exactly. You're driving the car, you're nodding in the meeting, you're buying the groceries. But if someone were to really look at you, or if you were to really look at yourself, you'd realize, well, the lights are on, but nobody's home.
The classic autopilot setting.
Yeah, autopilot. It's this sensation that your body is just like a meat suit dragging your mind around on a leash. You feel totally robotic. And usually when we feel this way, we say, man, I'm burned out, or I need a vacation.
Which makes sense on the surface.
Right. But I've been reading through this massive stack of research you sent over for this deep dive, and these sources suggest we are completely misdiagnosing the problem.
We absolutely are. And that is really the mission for our deep dive today. We're looking at a fascinating collection of documents that range from ancient Platonic philosophy and Paracelsian alchemy, all the way to some surprisingly practical guides on what they call Pranic Hygiene.
Pranic Hygiene. I got to be honest. That sounds like something I'd pay way too much for at a wellness retreat in Sedona.
It definitely sounds a bit out there, I know.
Just a little bit.
But if we strip away the mystical language for a second, the core argument here is that in the modern world, we define health as simply the absence of disease. Like, if you aren't coughing, you're healthy.
Yeah, if I'm not in the hospital, I'm fine.
Precisely. But these texts, especially the ones rooting back to ancient Greek philosophy, they argue that health isn't a neutral state at all. It is a state of dynamic equilibrium.
Dynamic equilibrium.
Right. It's a positive, active harmony between the soul and the body. And when that harmony breaks, you don't necessarily get the flu. You get that exact zombie feeling you just described.
Okay, so let's get into the mythology first, because this distinction in the sources really blew my mind. I always thought Asclepius was the main guy for medicine in the Greek myths. The guy with the staff and the snake.
He is. Asclepius is the god of medicine, surgery, and curing. He is the trauma surgeon.
The guy you call when things go wrong.
Exactly. You call him when the leg is already broken or the infection has already set in. He fixes things that have failed. But the sources actually focus on his daughter, Hygeia.
Which is where we get the word hygiene, right?
Yes, it is.
Now,
but for the ancients, hygiene wasn't just, washing your hands or brushing your teeth. Hygeia represents prevention. She represents the vital aura and the art of staying in flow, so you never actually need the surgery in the first place.
The imagery described in the texts is pretty wild, too. She's usually shown with silver hair, holding a bowl, and feeding a giant serpent.
It's a very striking image.
It is. And I have to pause here, because usually in mythology, if there's a snake, the hero is trying to chop its head off. Why is the goddess of health keeping a venomous reptile as a pet?
That is a great question. In this specific context, the serpent doesn't represent evil or danger in the traditional sense. It represents the life force.
Oh, the raw energy.
Yes, the raw, primal energy of the body. It's dangerous if it's uncontrolled, certainly, but it's also the engine of life. So Hygeia doesn't kill the serpent. She feeds it.
So she's taming it, or channeling it.
Channeling it is a better word. She's nourishing it from that bowl she carries, which holds the solar prana, or the elixir of life. It's a symbol of active maintenance. She isn't waiting for the serpent to get sick. She's constantly feeding it to keep it strong and directed, because if you kill the serpent, you might not be sick, but you're dead.
You'd have no drive at all.
Exactly. You'd have zero life force.
There was also a mention of a stork in the texts, which I usually associate with baby showers, not really medical philosophy.
Right, the stork. That actually links back to the Egyptian Bennu bird, which is sort of the precursor to the phoenix.
The rebirth bird.
Exactly. It's all about the cycle of renewal. The idea is that health isn't a static possession. It's not a trophy you just put on a shelf and admire. It is a living force, like a bird or a serpent, that needs to be constantly rebirthed. If you stop renewing it, it stagnates.
And stagnation brings us to the villain of this story. The sources drop this incredibly provocative line. They say, routine is in itself a disease.
That is a very heavy statement.
I felt personally attacked, honestly, because I love my routines. I love my coffee at 7 in the morning. I love my specific commute playlist.
We all do. We're wired for it.
But the text calls this a stereotyped response, doesn't it?
It does. Think about what stereotype means here. It means you are responding to the world with a pre-recorded script.
You aren't actually perceiving reality.
Right, you're just running a program. The text argues that when we operate purely on routine, we stop being conscious beings.
It breaks down the symptoms of this disease of routine and I found them uncomfortably relatable. The physical symptom is relying on purgations or stimulants.
Think about that morning coffee you mentioned. Are you drinking it because you truly savor the flavor and it's this beautiful, mindful ritual? Or are you drinking it because your natural self-generated movement is basically dead and you need a chemical jumpstart just to get the machine moving?
Ouch. Okay, fair point. Then there's the emotional symptom, which the text calls convenient boredom. This one stumped me at first. How is boredom convenient? How is it a shield?
This is a profound psychological insight from the sources. The text suggests that we often use boredom to escape uncomfortable realities. It's much safer to be bored than to be challenged.
So you just shut down.
Yes. Or we have stereotyped reactions to people. You know when a specific colleague walks into the room and you instantly feel annoyed before they've even opened their mouth?
Oh, 100%.
That annoyance isn't a real present moment emotion. It's a calcified routine. You aren't interacting with the actual person in front of you. You're interacting with your memory of them.
That is convenient boredom.
Exactly. It saves you the energy of actually dealing with them in real time.
Wow. And that leads to the mental symptom, which is intellectual fossilization, which is basically walking around thinking, I already know this, so you just stop listening entirely.
And that is the death knell for the soul. The sources warn that when these three things happen, physical stimulants, emotional boredom, and mental fossilization, the soul and the body basically file for divorce.
They uncouple.
They uncouple. And this leads to what the texts call pranic intoxication or profound exhaustion.
And there's that brilliant quote from Plato's Timaeus that really sums up the cure. It says, "The body must not move without the soul, nor the soul without the body."
Meaning they have to be in perfect symmetry. If the body's dragging the soul around, you're a zombie.
And if the soul is trying to fly away from the body, you're a ghost.
Exactly.
So how do we know which one we are? Because burnout is such a blanket term today. The sources provided this alchemical self-diagnostic table based on the three primes: salt, sulfur, and mercury. Now, I've heard of these in basic chemistry, but how do they apply to a psychological breakdown?
This is where Paracelsus comes in. He was a famous alchemist who believed the universe and the human body were made of these three principles. It's a brilliant framework because it categorizes our burnout elementally.
Let's start with salt. In my kitchen, salt is a preservative. It's stable.
That's the perfect way to look at it. Salt represents crystallization, stability, and structure. But when you have too much salt in your system, physically or metaphorically, what happens?
You harden up.
You harden. You become the robot.
The robot.
Yes. This sensation is heavy, stuck, rigid, cold. You might physically feel stiff or your digestion slows down. Psychologically, you are doing things purely out of habit with zero feeling. You are a dense object just occupying space.
I have definitely had days like that.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I'm moving through molasses, so if I diagnose myself as a salt type, just totally stuck, what is the remedy? Do I need to take a nap and relax?
No, actually. If you're stuck in salt, relaxing just makes you heavier.
No, that makes sense.
The text says you need mercury and sulfur. You need new ideas, which is mercury, to break the mental rigidity. And you need movement or warmth, which is sulfur, to melt the ice.
So I need to go learn something completely new or go for a run. I need to literally shake the jar.
Exactly. You need agitation. Now, contrast that with sulfur. Sulfur is combustion. It's the internal fire.
This one is called the firefighter in the text.
Right. When sulfur is dominant, you aren't bored at all. You're inflamed. You are constantly reacting to crises. You feel burned out, irritable, hot. You're snapping at your spouse. You're road raging.
I feel like a massive chunk of the modern world runs entirely on sulfur. We mistake that constant stress for productivity.
Yeah, I really do. We think because we're on fire, we're working hard. But actually, we're just burning fuel uselessly. And the remedy here is counterintuitive.
Because if you're a sulfur type, you don't need more to do.
No, you need salt.
You need to be grounded.
You need cooling. You need discipline, silence, and heavy grounding activities. And you also need mercury, specifically higher philosophy, to detach from the swirling emotions. You need to stop reacting and start thinking.
Okay, so salt is the robot, sulfur the firefighter. That leaves mercury.
Mercury is volatility, quicksilver. When this is the problem, you become the ghost.
I feel attacked by this one. The ghost is that brain fog feeling, isn't it?
It is. It's feeling scattered, anxious, dizzy. It's when you walk into a room and completely forget why you're there.
Is that a spiritual imbalance? I honestly thought that was just my lack of sleep catching up to me.
Well, it can be both. But elementally, it means you have too much wind. You are unanchored, Your mind is a million miles away, usually worrying about the future or replaying the past, and you have completely abandoned the physical moment.
So if I'm a ghost floating away, how do I come back down to Earth?
You need salt. You need gravity. You need strict routine. Not the bad, zombie kind, but the disciplining kind. Schedule your day down to the minute.
Give myself some boundaries.
Exactly. And you need sulfur, which is purposeful action. Stop thinking about the 10 things you could do and do one concrete thing with your hands.
The goal, then, isn't to be purely one of these elements. It's finding the balance between them.
The classics called it the serene fire, solid but not rigid, which is salt, warm but not burning, which is sulfur, quick but not scattered, which is mercury.
Okay, so we've diagnosed ourselves. I think I'm currently oscillating somewhere between a ghost and a firefighter, depending what time of day it is. But once we know our type, we need to actually protect that balance.
Yeah.
The sources talk about invisible shields.
And this brings us right back to Pranic Hygiene. The text emphasizes that the vital aura isn't a solid wall. It's not about blocking the world out, because that's just isolation.
Right.
It's about energetic integrity. When we get stressed, our aura gets dirty or porous.
Let's walk through these 4 shields, because the text suggests some very specific practices here. And I don't want to call them hacks, because that feels a bit cheap for 2,000-year-old wisdom. Let's call them rituals.
Agreed. Rituals is the perfect word.
The first one is Shield 1, Purity. This is associated with the water element.
This addresses the problem of feeling sticky. You know when you've been in a toxic environment, maybe a heated argument in a conference room, and even though the fight is over, the air just feels thick.
Oh yeah, it's like secondhand smoke for emotions. You just want to get out of there and take a shower.
The texts call that miasma. It's vibrational pollution. You pick it up like dust. The ritual here is ablution, or fluidity. Stagnant water rots, but flowing water cleanses. The practice is the water cleanse.
Which is literally just washing yourself, right?
It is, but the intention is everything. If you just wash your hands to kill germs, you're just killing germs. But if you wash your hands with the conscious thought, I am washing away the foreign vibrations I picked up from that meeting, it acts as a psychological reset button.
I really like that. It basically closes the open tab in your brain. Then there's Shield 2, Discernment. This one is linked to Athena, the warrior goddess.
This is for when you're getting drained by someone else's drama. The problem is a lack of boundaries. You've let someone else's chaos hijack your own nervous system.
The technique here is neutrality.
Correct. The practice is a simple mantra. This is not mine. The text says, don't let the external energy find a hook. If someone is screaming at you and you get angry back, you've created a hook.
You resonate with them.
You've resonated. You let the vampire in.
So being the warrior in this sense doesn't mean fighting back.
No. In this context, the warrior is the one who cannot be moved. You become Teflon. You observe the anger, you say, this is not mine, and you simply let it slide off.
Shield 3 is Presence. And this seems to be the direct antidote for the ghost we talked about earlier.
Yes. If you feel empty or disconnected, your shield is down because you aren't engaging your will.
And the practice is called micro-presences.
I love this one because you can do it absolutely anywhere. It's essentially physics. Spend 30 seconds focusing entirely on the weight of your feet on the floor, or the sensation of your back against the chair.
Why does that work, though? It sounds almost too simple.
It works because gravity is real. When you focus on your weight, you are forcing your consciousness back into the physical vessel. The source says a soul fully present in the body creates an impenetrable frequency. You cannot be drained if you are fully occupying your own space.
That is powerful. Finally, we have Shield 4, Harmony, or the Inner Aphrodite.
This one addresses tension. If your shoulders are hiked up to your ears all day, you're in fight or flight mode. We tend to think tensing up protects us, like bracing for a physical punch. But the source argues that tension is actually a crack in the armor. It makes you brittle.
So the technique is dynamic equilibrium.
Right. The visualization is smoothing out that silver aura into a luminous sphere. You replace rigidity with relaxed alertness. Think of a master martial artist. They aren't tense before a strike, they're loose. That's exactly what makes them ready.
Okay, so we have the diagnostic tools and we have the 4 shields. But how do we maintain this? Because inevitably, I'm going to check my email and the chaos will start all over again. The sources talk about gymnastics for the soul.
And this is where we get to the fascinating root of the word religion. The etymology is religar, which means to bind back.
To bind back.
Yes, the body is like a ship tossed by waves. It needs to be bound back to a master, which is the soul. If the soul isn't steering, the body just drifts aimlessly.
And the cure for the drifting is daily study and research. But I want to be really clear here for everyone listening. The text isn't talking about reading the news or scrolling through social media.
Absolutely not. That is passive consumption. That creates the miasma we just talked about. Paracelsus actually advises reading the book of nature.
What does that actually look like in practice?
It's the difference between seeing a tree and actively investigating a tree. If you walk past a tree and just think, that's a tree, you're using a label. You're stuck in routine. But if you stop and look at how the bark twists or how the light hits a specific leaf, you are searching for vestigia.
Vestigia?
Traces of the divine design. You are engaging your curiosity.
So it's active seeking, kind of like Sherlock Holmesing your reality.
Exactly. When you learn something new, deeply, you are exercising the soul. You are preventing that intellectual fossilization.
The source outlines a Platonic symmetry routine that I think is incredibly actionable. It starts in the morning with the hygiene of enthusiasm.
Which is such a brilliant phrase. Most of us start our day with the hygiene of anxiety, checking notifications in bed. This routine says, before you give your mind to the world, give it to the eternal. Read a maxim from Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius. Do some gentle movement. Greet the sun. Claim the first 15 minutes for your soul.
Then during the day, you apply the vaccine against routine.
This is a fun challenge. Force yourself to find one new detail in a very familiar task. If you're filling out the exact same spreadsheet you do every week, look for a pattern in the numbers you never noticed. If you're walking the dog on the same route, find a plant you haven't seen before.
It forces the mind out of robot mode and into researcher mode.
Precisely.
And then comes the evening with the examination of justice.
This is the closing of the circle. Before you go to sleep, you ask yourself, did I act with temperance today? Did I serve a good end? It cleans the slate. It ensures you don't carry the day's unfinished emotional business into your sleep.
The sources sum all this up by saying, philosophy isn't just thinking, it's gymnastics. If we don't do it, we risk becoming animals with merely instinctive intelligence.
It's a stark warning. We really have to work out our souls just as much as we work out our bodies.
To recap our journey today, because we've covered a huge amount of ground, we started by identifying that zombie feeling not as just being tired, but as a severe disconnect between body and soul, a disease of routine.
Then we used the alchemical table to diagnose if we are the crystallized robot, the burning firefighter, or the scattered ghost, and we discussed how to balance them using their elemental opposites.
We equipped our 4 ritual shields: ablution for sticky energy, neutrality for other people's drama, grounding for presence, and relaxation for harmony.
And finally, we looked at the daily gymnastics, binding the body back to the soul through active wonder, and those specific morning and evening protocols.
The big takeaway for me is this entire concept of symmetry. Health isn't just about your cholesterol levels or your daily step counts. It's about whether your soul and your body are actually friends.
That is the ultimate key. When they move together, you have that dynamic equilibrium. You achieve Hygeia.
Now, I want to leave you with one final image from the texts. The sources mention a figure named Telesphorus. He's a child deity who is often seen standing right next to Hygeia.
He represents completion or recovery. He's the endpoint of all this internal work. And interestingly, he is closely linked to the number 7.
The number 7 represents the septenary nature of humans. The idea that we have 7 layers, from the dense physical body all the way up to the divine spirit.
And that is the final provocation for you to think about. If we are a 7-layered being, but we're only taking care of the bottom one, the physical body, it's no wonder we feel incomplete. It's no wonder we feel like ghosts in a machine.
So as you go about your day, ask yourself, which of your invisible shields is currently down? And what is the single micro-presence you can do right now to fix it? Maybe just feeling your feet on the floor for 30 seconds to remind your soul that it actually has a home.
Because the body must not move without the soul.
Nor the soul without the body. Thanks for diving deep with us.